We created the Blue Lab to bring a little bit of evidence and scientific-based reviews to the fly fishing world because we don't see much of it. We do see lots of anecdotal evidence, and we know that not everything we do is going to be able to be tested in every way. What we're going to do with the Blue Lab is test what we can test and mix that in with our personal observation, because some things like comfort we can't put any kind of analysis towards other than what we've observed. And that's what we did, especially with this sock review. We wanted to know what will keep your feet the warmest that's not incredibly uncomfortable. Using an infrared thermometer, we took skin temperature after standing in a freezing cold pool for an hour for each sock. And then I had to go back and review what my comfort level was for each sock. That part is going to be my observation, but the skin temperature was tested. After the first day and taking all of our readings and our measurements, the only correlation that we found was that the thickest sock kept us the warmest and also kept us the absolute least comfortable as possible. It felt terrible. That's the point that we decided to go talk to somebody who knew a lot more about socks and sock technology and where we could go from the point we were at. After talking with Jim over at Sockwell, we knew that we needed to have wool in the system that we were wearing. And we also needed some form of compression, because when you're out there and it's really cold, the more blood flow that you've got, the better. And for long term, throughout the entire day, not for an hour standing in a pool, but through the entire day, blood flow is extremely important. Jim gave us 2 pair of compression socks that he thought would do the best job for our project. One being a prototype. These socks were comfortable and kept my feet as warm as the thickest merino wool. But we did not set out on this project to find an equal. We want the best system available. After getting the same temperature readings with the compression socks as we were as the merino wool socks in the pool, it was time to get out of the pool and do the rest of our testing out in the field. Knowing that the separation from the cold water, or loft, is what was making the extra difference with the thicker socks, we needed to add loft to our compression socks without becoming incredibly uncomfortable again, which left us scratching our heads and at an impasse. While we're sitting around pretty much out of ideas and brainstorming on what we needed to do to improve this system, we remembered that someone had sent us a sock that was advertised as making it easier to get in and out of your waders, in and out of your boots, and we went and found them. This is called wet socks, and they come in either 1 millimeter or 2.5 millimeters. This is 1 millimeter. After putting this over one of our compression socks, it solved our issue of comfort while still having a cushion and a gap in between your foot and the actual temperature of the water. No longer were we uncomfortable, and the wet socks goes above the calf so it doesn't slide down, and it keeps you really comfortable inside your waders. And that's the conclusion that we came to. At the very beginning, we always thought it was going to be some form of combination of socks that would work the best. And instead of just buying the thickest, largest wool sock that you can find, you can take these 2 things and stay as warm as you want, because you can always go up in thickness in the wet socks to give you that cushion. And then the overall comfort and blood flow support of the compression socks kept us by far the warmest and the most comfortable, and it was measurable by more degrees difference than wearing a thin running sock was to wearing a wool sock. After putting the system together, I started to wear these on a couple different trips that we went on. I wore both the Ascend and I wore the Camo. The camo with the wet socks creates more loft. It creates more distance in between the outside temperature and your skin. For me, the only issue that I had is that the camo does not actually stay above my calf. Not everyone was having that issue, and so I stuck with the Ascend, which stayed higher up on my leg and actually managed to stay over my calf the whole time. And because we weren't out in sub-zero temperatures, the combination of the wet socks and the Ascend for me was perfect. And it was extremely comfortable because the Ascend is not super thick, but it's much thicker than most compression socks. And this gave me enough loft that my foot was no longer cold. Once I had the combination, I wore them on our next 3 full-day fishing trips in January and February, thoroughly testing and confirming that we had found the right combination. So let's get to the actual products. The first one is the Ascend over the calf, which comes in at $26.99. This is their taller compression sock. And we also took one that is a prototype currently that will come out in August, which is the Camo over the calf, which is $27.99. Now, combining all these things together, you're talking about somewhere around 70 bucks, which up front might seem like a lot, but for the fact that these are socks and you aren't going to need to replace them, it's not a lot to ask to have warm feet from here on out. And if I was going to buy one thing, and if I had normal size calves, it would definitely be the Camo, because it is a compression sock that's much thicker. For the Southeast, the best combination for me was the Ascend and the wet sock, and those two together gave me the greatest amount of comfort and measurable skin temperature that was higher than even a thick merino wool sock. Now we're in the Southeast, and even though I had to break ice to get into the pool that we were testing these in, it's still not as cold as it is for you guys who are out there steelheading. If you're in the PNW, I understand it. I mean, I've been there, I've fished there, and I couldn't feel my feet 20 minutes in. What you can do is go up one thickness level on the wet sock, and you're still gonna be much more comfortable than super, super thick merino wool socks that slide around, because these compression socks and this wet sock, they don't move at all. And it makes everything easier. And even though they sent us the wet socks with the advertising saying that it made everything, getting in and out of your waders easier, what we found is that it also kept your foot warmer. And it did its job of what it's advertised for as well. If you're only gonna buy one sock, that's what's in your budget, I'd wait till August 1st or pre-order, because they're gonna go quickly. I would wait and get the Camo. The calf issue is not going to be an issue for 98% of people. If I'm living in the Southeast and I'm going to buy a combination, I'm definitely going to go with the Ascend and the wet sock together. I can't scientifically prove what's most comfortable, but I did wear these a lot, and I can tell you that any combination of these are going to be more comfortable than wearing a super thick wool sock that's gonna slide down your leg. In conclusion, I am very happy with the way this experiment turned out. When we went and talked to Jim, that was kind of our changing point. The way we looked at this was compression over just thickness of the sock. And what Jim and Sockwell led us to was 2 pairs of socks that we weren't aware of, and that leading us to trying the wet socks out. And combining these two things really changed the entire game of keeping our foot truly warm and comfortable throughout the whole day. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel so that we can keep bringing this content to you and trying to put a little bit more science into your gear.